back to Noveleando Podcast. My name is Gloria de Leon, and I'm here with my amazing guest,
Amber Ovilus. Thank you for having me, Gloria.
Welcome back, Amber.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you back. So, coincidentally, the novela we're doing today, it's called Donde Hubo Fuego, where there was fire.
Ooh, sounds sizzling spicy hot.
Oh, it is. But coincidentally, the first time, so this novela is actually produced by Argos Production Company. Mm-hmm. And the first novela we did that they did was Danny Who, which is the one that you did. Yes. So I was like, yay, we're having you back. So you remember Danny Who.
Yes.
So this one is the same production company.
Okay.
And just to recap a little bit, so Argos Communication, so they initially were started by Epigmenio Ibarra, Carlos Payan, and Veronica Velasco, and all of whom are journalists, and they originally wanted to do something that would, like a production company that would surpass TV Azteca and Televisa and all the major production houses in Mexico. Mm. And everyone was like, hey, you're crazy, you're never going to do that. And then like 20 years later or so, streaming happens. Mm-hmm. And now Argos Communication has, because they started initially as a production house for telenovelas, and then they did a couple movies too. Well, Argos Communication now has contracts with Netflix and HBO and Paramount. So they are actually on their way to surpassing the productions of these companies. Yeah, so it's kind of like I guess like a prediction of his that he would eventually. I mean, maybe he was just being cocky, but also like it's happening.
It's being done.
Yes. And so like, for example, a few of the episodes that we're doing this season for Noveleando, they're all coming from Argos Communications.
Wow.
Yeah, because they have a contract with Netflix, and also Netflix is like the subscription I have. But part of the reason for that is that they have they've done quite a few novelas for Netflix. Okay. So they've kind of combined traditional novela storytelling with like series type of storytelling. So they are condensed. The traditional novelas are between 100 to 300 episodes, anywhere in between.
Wow.
And like the ones for Netflix are around 40 episodes. Okay. So they are condensed in more of like a series format, but they have all the traditional elements of telenovelas, including they're taking telenovela actors and putting them in these series.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So we're going to talk about Donde Hubo Fuego. Did you get a chance to see the little videos I sent you?
Yes.
Okay. So one of them what I sent you was the what is it called? The trailer.
Yes.
For the novela. What did you think of the trailer?
I thought it was amazing. I was intrigued.
Okay. And what did you get from the trailer?
That it's hot.
Yes, the other video I sent you was just a little teaser about what this novela is about. Donde Hubo Fuego is a story about it combines a serial killer and also hot firefighters. So I was like, yes, please, I want to do this novela. So before we get into the actual plot of the novela, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about, so the screenwriter, his name is Jose Ignacio Valenzuela, and he started writing very young. His aunt was a children's writer. Oh. And so he started writing, I guess at some point as a teenager, he started helping her write children's stories. And then he grew up to be a writer. He has other things he's written. So he's written other novelas like La Familia de Al Lado, Santa Diabla, La Hija Pródiga, Sabor de Ti. He's got a lot of different novelas. So he does have experience writing novelas. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, again, they're taking telenovela actors.
Yeah.
And one of the lead actors in this novela is Eduardo Capetillo, who we know from Marimar. That's like his most famous role.
Okay.
But Eduardo Capetillo comes from a famous acting family. His brother, his older brother was the star of Rosa Salvaje, which is also like a huge telenovela, which Marimar is very similar to. It was weird how they both played the same role essentially. And then like he was also in Baila Conmigo. He's married to Vivi Gaitan. They met on Baila Conmigo. Like huge acting family. And in this novela, there's like flashbacks of when he was younger. And so the younger version of him, when you're watching it, you're like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of AI bullshit am I seeing? It's actually his son. So Eduardo Capetillo Jr., who is the son of him and Vivi Gaitan, plays the younger version of himself in this novela. And the other really cool person in this is Itati Cantoral, who she was. Do you know who Soraya Montenegro is? So
sounds familiar.
Yeah, she's like the meme queen of telenovela.
Okay.
So when they go, like if you see a meme and it's like angry in Spanish, it's just Itati Cantoral. Soraya was the villain in was it Marimar or Mariela del Barrio? I think she was the villain in one of the Marias. The Marias are all very similar, so I get confused. But Itati Cantoral plays like a mean villain. She's like the image of like anger and villainy and like vileness and anger. And in this novela, she's like older, a little bit older. She's still hot as fuck because it's Itati Cantoral.
Yeah.
But she plays like a mom, and she's just like this sweetheart. And it's so fun to see her in this role because I'd never seen her play just like anything other than like a villain.
Yeah.
So she's super fun.
Nice.
So this story, let me just go ahead and tell anyone who's going to watch this novela, or if you're going to watch this episode where we're going to recap the whole novela, and then you're like, oh, I don't need to see the novela anymore. That's fine. But let me just tell you, watch episode 1 and episode 7, and then the final episode. Take that note, because those are the sexy, steamy episodes. Even if you don't watch the rest of it. Okay. Episode 1, 7, and the last episode. The clip I sent you was from the last episode.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, this story, scene 1 is nothing but a thirst trap for firefighter-loving hoes, women, men, doesn't matter. Like anyone who loves firefighters. Yeah. It's essentially this just scene of firefighters getting real sudsy and soapsy. And you're like, why don't they have fires to do?
The soap helps sometimes.
That's true.
Water and soap.
Water and soap. They are putting out fires and cleaning the houses at the same time. So they're doing, so then you're like, why is this happening? And they flash forward, and then you see why this was happening later, but they definitely open with that scene, and I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing. So this story is about, first of all, there's 2 brothers, and they're Poncho and Danny, and they are fraternal twins, which I think is like novela's version of saying they're twins, but also we didn't get twin actors, so this is why these 2 people don't look like each other. So we have Poncho and Danny. Now, Danny is a reporter, and he's investigating a serial killer. Okay. And he's investigating this serial killer called El Carnicero de Reynosa, the Butcher of Reynosa. Ooh. And so I will say, so the novela is in Spanish, so you could probably see it dubbed, I'm not sure, but it is in Spanish, so it's important because El Carnicero de Reynosa, they're going to do something with that name later, but it essentially means he's the Butcher of Reynosa. Okay. And so this guy, by the time Danny is investigating this crime, these crimes already happened like 20 years ago. Oh. It's an old case. And he found out that there's someone currently in jail for those crimes. And he's trying to figure out whether or not that person is innocent. But this serial killer, what we know is that his MO was he would kill women and put them in barrels. And they would find, like, the barrels with the remains of the women inside.
Oh.
Yeah. Super gross. Really mean. Rude. Like, why would you do that to somebody, right? Like, if you're gonna kill someone, just kill them. Like, why take the extra step? I'm just saying.
Why try and turn them into wine in a barrel?
Yeah, that's just rude. So, and this novela takes place in Reynosa, which is the border town across the border from McAllen, Texas. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there is some crossing back and forth between McAllen and Reynosa. Mm-hmm. First episode, Danny is found murdered.
What?
Yes.
The investigator twin?
Yes. Dead. So, now it is Poncho's job to figure out what the hell happened to his brother.
Is Poncho a detective too?
He is not.
Okay.
Poncho is by profession a stripper.
Naturally, one would go into investigation after that.
Of course, yes.
Career progression.
Yeah, that's the next step. You know, I think this is a good motivational novela for anyone who's like, I'm stuck in my job.
Lost in life.
I should try to find other options. And to be fair, he was making great money as like a dancer. So then he's at his like dancing job and he meets this girl and she, you know, he meets lots of girls, but this one's like really mysterious.
Special.
She's special. And she like kind of talks to him after he gets out of work and he's like, what's your name? And she's like, I'd rather you didn't know. And so,
oh my gosh.
And so then his brother's killed, right? So he's like, I got to figure out what happened to my brother. And he somehow, somehow he figures out that his brother was investigating this fire station, that they're somehow involved with this Butcher of Reynosa guy, but he doesn't know who or what he was investigating there. So basically he applies to be a firefighter at this fire station to figure out what happened to his brother, and that's where he meets this girl, and I forgot her name because she didn't tell him right away. But
the mysterious
special girl. She is a firefighter as well. So she's the only female firefighter on the squad.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by those women.
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. I do wish, though, that in this novela they would have gotten, like, I guess, I feel like even though they relied heavily on, like, she's strong as a female firefighter, but they also, like, there were times when I'm like, but she still comes off as, like, a little whiny. And I feel like that's not who a female firefighter would be. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Okay, so then, let's see. The guy that is arrested for being the butcher, he's been in jail for, like, 20 years.
Okay.
So at the same time that Danny gets murdered, this guy has just been released from jail. And he is going back to his hometown because he just got out of jail. His hometown being Reynosa. And because he was in jail in the U.S., in Texas, for a crime he committed there with another murder, right?
For like 20 plus years.
Yes.
Okay.
And then he gets out. He goes back to Mexico. And then we find out that the reason he was trying to figure out the reason that Danny is trying to figure out if this guy was guilty or not is because the man in jail is him and Poncho's biological father. So Poncho and Danny came from an orphanage. They don't know who their parents are.
Yeah.
And he finds out that this man is their dad. And he'd been communicating with him. Danny had. Before he gets killed, he'd been communicating with this guy, but he'd never met him because he still didn't know if he was the murderer or not. And one of the people that the Butcher of Reynosa killed was their mom. Yeah.
Oh.
I know. Like, right away, there's, like, intrigue, right? And, like, scary things. So, he doesn't know if his dad killed his mom and also, like, several other women. And he's trying to figure that out. He's trying to investigate. He gets killed. So, there's this guy who's a reporter who is like Danny's boss. Like, the guy who's the newspaper head or whatever. He's the one that somehow gets Poncho involved, or he finds Poncho, and he's the one that tells him, like, if you want to know what happened to your brother, that's right. There's like a really deep scene where he's like, he takes him into like a corner, and you're like, oh no, his brother just got killed. And then he's like now following this random stranger into a dark alley. And this man tells him, if you want to know what happened to your brother, find this fire station and be a firefighter.
Naturally, as one does.
Yeah. He's like, okay. And then the guy leaves. And so then Poncho's like, all right, I'm going to try to be a firefighter. Well, he first is going to check out what's happening at the station.
Yeah.
So he goes over and he sees that that guy that just told him that is there to meet up with the the fire chief of that station, the captain of that station. And then the captain and him, they get in a car, and he follows them because he's like, what are they up to, right? Suspicious.
Yeah.
He follows them in the car, and then they get out of the car, and they go into a building, and he's waiting for them outside the building, like still like hiding, watching. They get out of the building, they get back in the car, and the car explodes. Explosion! Boom! Yes!
Then what happened?
So then, now he's got to call the police and be like, oh yeah, I was just casually here when this car exploded. But he does call the police. So then now those two are dead. The fire chief is dead, and the head of this newspaper is also dead.
Whoa.
So now there's too many dead people.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I definitely have to be a firefighter now. So, so then also, like, Danny had never explained to Poncho, like, that he was investigating this, whether or not the guy in jail was the real killer. He also never told him that it was their dad. So he doesn't know any of that. He, like, they're brothers, but they didn't seem like they had, like, the most communication. Like, they were kind of each in their own thing. And so, and also I think Danny didn't want to tell him too much because he knew he was possibly in danger. So then Poncho goes to the fire station, and he asks for a job. Now, at the same time that that's happening, we have... Ricardo is the dad who had been arrested.
Right.
So Ricardo, he goes... So apparently, that same fire station previously had been run. Like, the fire chief that got killed, before him, there was another fire chief. And that guy was, like, best friends with Ricardo. So when he gets out of jail, he goes to see his best friend, but his best friend had passed away from, like, unrelated thing.
Okay.
He just wasn't there anymore.
He wasn't murdered, too.
He wasn't murdered. He just passed away.
Wow.
I think maybe in a fire or something. Like, he just passed away.
Yeah.
So Ricardo shows up to this fire station at the same time. And now here is, like, you know, like, there's multiple, like, side stories going on.
Yeah.
At the same time. So, in comes one of my favorite characters, her name is Gloria. And Gloria is played by Itati Cantoral. And so, she is the ex-wife of, or not the ex-wife, she's the widow of his best friend who had died, who used to be the fire chief. And so, the station is actually named after the guy. And so, she's the widow, and she has, like a little house with, like, she rents out rooms in this, like, house. It's, like, a large house, and she has several rooms. And she lives next to the fire station. And she's just this, like, lovely lady who, like, because, you know, this is where her loving husband used to work. And I guess being a fire wife means, like, you're very involved. And so she, like, she still brings the fire station, like, cookies and, like, baked goods.
Wow.
Yeah. She, like, takes care of them. She knows all of the firefighters who work there. They all call her, like, Doña Glorita. And she rents her. She has a son who lives with her. And then she rents out 2 other rooms to 2 other young girls who are all about the same age, or maybe, like, early 20s or so. We'll get more into their stories in a bit. And so she sees Ricardo, who was the best friend of her, you know, now deceased husband. And she's like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And she's also like, ooh, like, you aged good. So she has a crush on him. And then he tells her, you know, that he's back and he's going to try to find work. Now, because the fire chief just got murdered, they're looking for a replacement, but that's going to take a minute. So she's like, do you want to work at the fire station? And he's like, yes, I do, but who's going to give me a job after what happened? And she's like, well, you don't need a job. You just need for them to think that you have a job. And he's like, what? So she lets him borrow her husband's, like, his outfit, like his fire chief outfit. And he wears it. And he walks in and he's like, hey, new fire chief. Nice to meet you all. And he walks in. And he basically pretends to be the fire chief until whenever. I don't know.
Well,
so
you fake it till you make it.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Yeah.
And so she essentially she was telling him, like, well, I feel like if you give me enough time, because she's still really good with all of the old heads of fire people. I don't know what they're called, like the board of the fire chiefs. I don't know. And so they all like her a lot. She's really nice to them. So she's like, I think I can convince them to give you the job. But until then, just pretend it's you. No one will know. And so that's the plan. So when Poncho goes in to ask for a job, before Ricardo had gone to that station, he had gone to look for Danny, his son, and he finds out that his son just got killed.
Right.
So he is, like, deeply depressed, right?
Yeah.
And so then he goes to the station, and then he sees Poncho walk in, and he knows Poncho's his son.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he does. So he sees him, he knows he's his son, but he also knows Poncho doesn't know that he's his dad.
Okay.
So Poncho's like, how do I be a firefighter? And then then Ricardo's like, I'm the fire chief. You have a job. Congratulations. And he just lets him in.
Oh my gosh.
So the fake police chief lets this fake firefighter come in and be a firefighter. And so, and in the meantime, there was, like, the fire chief's second in command. And he's, like, pissed. Because he was naturally like, well, I'll be fire chief as soon as I get the chance. And all of a sudden, a new person shows up and takes that position.
Yeah.
So he's just, like, not having it. And so, let's see. Okay, so Angel is the second in command.
Okay.
And also, just as again, one of the side stories is that Angel's sister, she works as the station therapist. Okay. So it was like a new program they'd started, I guess, the previous fire chief.
Yeah.
He thought that, after all of the work these firefighters do, they see a lot of tragedy and stuff. It was important to bring an on-site therapist to talk them through that. And it was a great program that was working really well. But it's Angel's sister, and there's a little bit of tension there because, like, she had gotten a divorce and, like, the family hated her because of it or something. And so Angel is, like, mad at his sister, but also his sister's like, whatever, I do my job, so leave me alone.
Yeah.
So then, so the police chief, let's see, he does, okay, Ricardo was set up, wait, who tells him? Okay, so Poncho goes to, like, the police and to talk about his brother's death, and the police chief tells Poncho that he thinks that the guy so Poncho knows that Danny was investigating the butcher of Reynosa. And so now he's interested in the case as well. He just hasn't seen a picture of the guy that was imprisoned, because if he'd see the picture, he'd know it's the same guy that's now his fire chief. So, but he knows that he was investigating that case.
Okay.
So he goes to the police, and the police chief basically tells him, like, we believe your brother was, they tell him, we believe that the Ricardo, who was accused of being the butcher of Reynosa, was set up by multiple people. So we don't actually think he did it, but all evidence pointed towards him. So he had to go to jail.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, so now he's more interested in the case, right?
Yeah.
And then, let's see, there's just, like, so many. Okay, so this is the first time Poncho gets kidnapped. So then he gets kidnapped.
From the fire station?
From the fire station, yes. But then there's actually quite a few kidnappings in this one.
Of course there is.
Yeah, so, like, his brother got kidnapped and then killed, and then he gets kidnapped. I'm trying to remember how he got out of the kidnapping. Okay, so before he got kidnapped, so he realizes that that girl, what is her name?
The mysterious.
Yeah,
girl?
mysterious girl. Because she's like the main girl in the story, and I forgot her name. Let's see.
I don't think you've revealed her name yet.
I don't think I have.
No.
But I need to know her name. Let's see.
You could call her Rosita.
We just gave her a different name. I have other people's names.
Or Carmen.
What if there's another Carmen?
True.
Olivia. Olivia's mysterious girl's name.
Okay.
Okay, so he finds out Olivia's a firefighter.
Uh-huh.
They kind of start having like a flirty flirt thing.
Wait, Olivia's a firefighter too?
Olivia's the mysterious girl.
Right. She's also a firefighter?
She is also a firefighter.
At that station?
At the station.
Okay.
She's
cool.
the only female firefighter.
Oh, that's right. I'm
Yes.
sorry you said that.
So
okay.
they kind of like have like a flirty thing going on. And then they know that like, yeah, okay, so he kind of like they start dating, but they like don't talk much, I guess. So they don't tell each other like a ton about their private lives. But she goes with him on this trip to Reynosa, to McAllen, Texas, because he's trying to investigate his brother's thing.
Right.
So she goes with him on this trip. They get to the hotel, and that's where he gets kidnapped.
Okay.
There's this mysterious dude that like knocks him over the head, and then
She just lets it happen. Was she in the bathroom going
she wasn't
number
there.
2?
Yeah,
Oh.
she was going number 2, maybe, maybe. So yeah,
She wasn't in the
she
room.
wasn't in the room when he got
Okay,
kidnapped.
Okay.
And so, that guy that kidnaps him basically tells him like, I was friends with the butcher of Reynosa, the guy who's in jail. I was friends with Ricardo because Ricardo's using a different name as the chief of police because obviously his name is,
Right.
and also, Poncho is also using a different name at the fire station.
Okay.
Because he doesn't want them to know who he is.
Yeah.
Because he's investigating and he's trying to be sneaky. So then, this is why it gets so confusing. There's so many names. And so then this kidnapper tells him, like, Ricardo's a bad dude. Like, he is in jail because he deserves to be in jail. Like, he for sure did it.
Yeah.
He's like, he even tells him, like, yeah, when we were little kids, like, we grew up together and he used to, like, torture animals and stuff. And part of me is like, I feel like that's something someone would say when they want to convince you.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, the thing they
trait.
say. Yeah, a trait.
Watch out for
like a
children.
true crime trait. Like, people who do that as kids are serial killers. So he's like, yeah, he used to torture animals and stuff. And so this guy is like, yeah, he's a sick dude. And then he takes him to this place with, like, a lot of barrels. And he's like, here's where he used to, like, murder people and put them in barrels. And, like, he's still like, but I don't know who you are, dude. Like,
Yeah.
So then he knocks him out. And then the guy disappears. And then Poncho's like, just like wakes up. So he's like, fine, but he got kidnapped. And when they were in McAllen, they also met with Ricardo's lawyer, the woman who was trying to defend him before he went to jail.
Okay.
And she's like, no, he definitely didn't do it. Like, look, I know all the evidence pointed in the direction, but there was definitely someone else involved. I don't think it was him. And she was still investigating stuff, too. And then she gets kidnapped and appears her body's found inside the barrels. The same place where that guy had taken him to.
Where he woke up?
Where he woke up.
So the body's still in the barrel?
So he wakes up and then he doesn't look at the barrels or anything. He leaves and then tries to contact the lawyer. They can't find her. And then he's like, maybe we should check this place I was just at.
Yeah.
And they go back to the place and they find the barrels. And they find the lawyer has now been
multiple
murdered.
bodies.
So in the barrel, this time it was just her, just the lawyer.
Okay.
Because this is like 20 years after all the
Right,
bodies.
yeah.
So they find her in the barrels.
How fresh was it?
Like, very fresh. Like, just the day before.
Like blood sleeping, not
Not.
seeping through the barrel wood, like
Yes.
on the ground.
Like, well, it was like in a barrel that wouldn't leak, but when they opened it, it was a good quality barrel.
Okay, cool.
And so, I don't know what kind of barrels you're imagining.
I'm picturing wine barrels,
Oh, you're thinking like a nice oaky, like
Yes.
he's
like a
no.
pirate barrel or
Yeah,
something on a
yeah.
ship.
No, these are more
Like
metal.
chemical, like Breaking Bad
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Changing the scene in my head now. Got it.
Now I get why you thought he was making wine. He was giving them a nice aged oaky smell.
So he's getting a metal barrel.
And they're in metal barrels. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, the preferred method of serial killers.
So she's found in the metal barrel.
Yeah, the lawyer.
Wow.
So now she's dead. And so there's also this black car that just keeps stalking Poncho, like wherever he goes. And then one day there's a fire, and so they go to the fire, like, you know, they go to put out the fire, and Poncho, like, runs up the stairs, and there's, like, a woman who's like, ah! And so he has to go find her, and so he gets to her, and he pulls her out, and then they get out of the... She's fine, like, she's just a little, like, messed up, but, like, she gets out, and then she's getting helped by the medical staff, and then she walks over to him, and she's like, you saved my life, and he's like, oh, yeah, you know, that's just part of the job, or whatever, and she's like, I know what happened to your brother, or something like that. He's like,
How does she know?
so it turns out the fire was at the station, the news station, like the newspaper station where his brother used to work, and she was one of his coworkers.
Oh.
So she knew everything he was investigating.
And she recognized Poncho.
Yes, and also she's his brother's girlfriend,
Of course.
which he didn't know he had.
Oh.
So Poncho didn't know his brother had a girlfriend. But Danny had been dating this girl who was a coworker of his, and she was kind of aware of what was going on. So it was kind of like a thing where she came in as a reporter, and the guy who was their boss, the one who got killed in the explosion, he was kind of a douche. And he was like, little girl, you're here to get me coffees, basically. And so Danny was like, yo, like, if she's a good reporter, like, let her report.
Yeah.
Like, so he kind of helped her out so that she was like, give me a chance. Like, if you, like, I get it if I do shitty, like, don't let me do work, but, like, give me a shot.
Yeah.
So then she is a good reporter. She starts working on cases, and so that's how she got to stay, and that's how her and Danny kind of got to connect. She's like, okay, this guy's not an asshole, you know. So they start working on this case. Now he's dead, and Danny's dead, and she is almost dead, you know, and so she's like, no, this was definitely, like, somebody tried to catch me on fire. So she's like, this fire was caused by somebody, saying basically, because she knows, you know, about this case. So then she's the one that's like, yeah, I understand you're going through a lot of grief right now, like, a lot has been coming your way. She's like, you know, your brother just died, like, you found out, like, your dad was the butcher of Reynosa and all that, and he's like, what? And she's like, oh, did you not know that? And so he's like, no, I didn't. So she didn't know that he was unaware that the guy that spent all that time in jail was him and Danny's dad.
Yeah.
So that's the first time he hears about that.
What did he say?
Oh, like he just goes into, like, you know, like in novelas when something really shocking happens and they just get, like, wide-eyed and don't talk to anyone. Yeah, for, like, an episode. He was just quiet. He was just walking around kind of, like, angry. And so now this girl, you know, she doesn't, I guess... Oh, because the black car has been following her around, too.
Oh.
And so she tells Poncho that, and Poncho's like, well, it's not safe for you to stay by yourself, so stay here. And by this time, Olivia's been staying with him as well. So him and Olivia kind of live together.
Okay.
And even though it's, like, been, like, 3 days. In real time.
Fast.
Yeah. So then this girl is now staying, like, on the couch or whatever, and Olivia is like, why are you talking so much to this girl, huh? Like, she's definitely jealous. And so then she's kind of annoyed, and he's like, well, she, like, has information about my brother. Like, I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so then, she tells what's her name? The girlfriend of... Danny's girlfriend, the reporter, she tells Poncho that she was there the day that they kidnapped him. They had kidnapped them both. but she was able to run away. And then they shot Danny. And basically, when they shot him, she ran. Oh. And that's how she was able to get away. And then...
she didn't go to the police after that?
So, here's a twist. She's actually police. Yeah.
Oh.
So, her job was to go undercover at the newspaper station as a reporter.
Oh.
So she's actually police. So everything that's been going on, she's been reporting back. But there is a suspicion that the police had been helping the butcher themselves. So she doesn't know who to trust, basically.
I wouldn't trust her.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
And so she has all this information, but the rest of the police doesn't necessarily all know about it because she doesn't know who she can trust. So it's mostly just her. So then after Poncho realizes that Ricardo is the guy who did time as the carnicero of Reynosa, he also then realizes that it's the same dude that he's working for at the fire station. So then he's like mad, and then he kind of confronts him about that, but he kind of does it in a way where he's like, "Oh, how's your family?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't like to talk about my family." And he's like, "Why? Did something happen to them?" So finally, like, he's like, "Yeah, like, I know that you're my dad," or whatever. And they kind of have, like, he's, like, angry with him. He's angry with Ricardo for a little bit, but then eventually there's this fire, and they all go to the fire. And, like, I mean, I guess it's just, like, the danger of the situation. And, like, Poncho gets out, and he's safe. And then Ricardo gets out, and he's safe. And they kind of, like, give each other a big hug.
Okay.
Because they're like, oh, you know, like, they're mad at each other, but they're like, this is my dad. Like, that's my son. You know? So they hug it out.
Okay. As one family does.
Yeah. So, Leonora is the girlfriend of the brother. Leonora, she's the undercover cop who is the
Danny's
reporter.
Girlfriend.
Danny's girlfriend.
Okay.
That's Leonora.
Can I just call her Elle?
Yeah, you can call her Elle.
Thanks.
Yeah. So then, so then she's still, like, staying with him, and then Olivia's still pissed. And so then eventually Poncho gets kidnapped a second time.
No way. From his home?
Yes.
What? With a police officer and firefighter under the same roof.
Yeah. So so I'm trying to remember what were the situations.
Wow. Okay.
And so then we have a lot of, like, flashbacks, and I'll come back to the kidnapping because I'm trying to remember when that happened. But yes, he does get kidnapped again.
Okay.
So there's, like, flashbacks that reveal a lot of the story because now we're seeing things through, like, Ricardo's eyes, and so we learned that Ricardo and his wife had these twin boys, and their group of friends basically consisted of these two guys, one of whom was a firefighter with Ricardo, and that's the guy who was who eventually became the firefighter who was the fire chief who the fire station is named after.
Right.
And then the other person was a police officer whose name was Hugo, and Hugo eventually, he was also one of the group of friends. He was cool with all of them. Hugo eventually marries Ricardo's sister, Isabel. So then now they're even closer. They're, like, family. So now they're in-laws. But then you can see there are scenes where interactions between Ricardo's wife, so the mom of the boys, interactions between her and Hugo are, like, really weird and really tense.
Why?
And you can tell she's, like, afraid of him.
Oh.
And so, like, the implication is, like, what the fuck is up with Hugo? Like, he's, like, a weird dude.
Is he the butcher?
And, well, we'll have to see. So, but he's definitely, like, I think as a woman, sometimes, like, we're able to recognize that, yeah, when someone, like, you can't necessarily describe how someone is creepy, but you know they are.
Yeah.
And so it's like she would she had that her body language would change when she was around him, and it's like, okay, so this guy's a creep. Like, he's a straight up creep.
He's friends with the butcher.
And then he marries like Ricardo's sister, which is also weird.
Yeah.
So then we learned that he was also like really abusive to the sister. And the reason that Flor is Ricardo's wife, the mom of Poncho and Danny, Flor is really afraid of Hugo because he's like obsessed with her, and he keeps trying to like get her alone. And as the novela goes on and as the flashbacks continue, you do find out that essentially he was like sexually assaulting Flor when Ricardo wasn't around.
Oh.
And she had even told Ricardo, like, I don't leave me alone with him. Like, I don't want to be alone with him. And Ricardo's like, I know you don't like him, but like, he's a cool guy. Like, which made me so mad. Because, and I do credit the writing in this case because I feel like they made it like very realistic. Where sometimes like women's concerns are taken as like childish, and she had legit reasons to not want to be around this person, and her husband was like, but he's my bro, he's my bud. Like, he didn't believe her concerns, and she never told him like, oh, like he sexually assaulted me or he's a weirdo and a creep. She just said like, I'm uncomfortable around him, and he didn't take that seriously.
That should have been enough reason to be like,
absolutely,
hey, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah. And you see like when Ricardo starts to realize what happened, then he does take a lot of like responsibility for it. Like, he definitely is like, that I should have listened. Okay. Like, that was on me.
Does he say that after she gets kidnapped and murdered?
Oh, way after she gets murdered.
Oh, she gets murdered too?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So she was one of the victims of the butcher of
Reynosa.
Reynosa.
Back then.
Yeah. And so but what happened with her is that, so essentially, she's a de facto victim, but like she wasn't like in the barrel like all the other women. There was a fire. So Ricardo was out of the home. I think he was working that night. And there was a fire. So he gets a call at the fire station. He realizes the fire is at his house. And he runs to his house, and he goes in to save his wife and kids, and he gets knocked out. Like, somebody knocks him on the head. And by the time he gets to the door, she like hands him the babies. And she's like, take them, like, I'll get out. And he's like, I'm gonna come back for you, because I think she can't get out for some reason. She's like hurt. So he leaves with the babies, but by the time he comes back in, it's too late, and she's already like dead. And so they do, like, I guess there was a person in there that hit him, and the fire was started intentionally. So he knows somebody killed his wife. And the police know somebody did it. That's why so they attribute the crime to him, and they also attribute the rest of the crimes to him. So they're like, you must be the butcher, and you also set fire to your house and killed your wife. But he was able to save the babies. And so he takes the babies out, and he's trying to take care of them, but he has to go to work. So his sister, Isabel, is then kind of like raising the kids for him. But Hugo, who was obsessed with Flor, when he sees the babies, he gets angry, and then he says, like, those should have been my kids. Like, he's saying,
ew.
Yeah, like, he hates the kids because they're from his friend, not from him.
Yeah.
And so Isabel, who's the aunt, she realizes, like, they're in danger. Yeah. So she's the one that takes them, because she's raising them because Ricardo's been arrested. That's why he can't take care of them. He's been arrested. Yeah. So she takes them in. She realized they and her are in danger. So she takes the kids to an orphanage, and she drops them off. And so that's why the orphanage knows where they came from. They have all those documents. And she's like, I'll come back for them, or their dad will come back for them, but like, just hold on to them. And that day, she gets murdered. So Isabel gets murdered as well. And so
I don't like Hugo.
No. So what Hugo does is he kills some other dude, puts him in his clothes, gives him his wallet, puts the guy in the car with his wife, who he's already killed, with Isabel, and he lights the car on fire, and he sends it over a cliff. So basically, he is faking his own death.
Yeah.
So by this point, everyone is like, okay, if you're watching it, you're like, okay, so he's definitely the murderer.
Right.
Like, he's the one who's killed all these people.
Yeah.
Because he definitely killed Flor. He definitely killed Isabel.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to kill the babies in that fire, too, but Ricardo saved them. So whether or not he killed all the other people, we don't know, but he definitely killed these people.
Yeah.
So basically, because he put some other guy and faked his own death, Ricardo and everyone thinks that Hugo is dead, but he never suspected that his friend did all these murders.
Right.
He just thought, oh, my friend died in that accident where him and my sister were in the car. So, but he just thinks, okay, Hugo is dead.
Yeah.
So then we go back to, like, Poncho, he gets kidnapped again when they're in McAllen. And was it in McAllen? I don't actually, okay, this is all I remember. There's so many details. And he got kidnapped so many times. All I remember is that, because he had made up with his dad, right? They had hugged it out.
Yeah.
So then he tells his dad, I'm trying to investigate, your case, because I think someone else is out there.
Yeah.
And so he's like, cool, I want to investigate it too. And also, it's dangerous, and my other son got killed, so I'll go with you.
Yeah.
So Poncho and Ricardo go to McAllen, but they also bring Olivia with them because she's like doesn't want to be left behind.
Yeah.
And so there's also like weird tension or like kind of weird sexual tension between Olivia and Ricardo,
Ew.
which I wasn't sure where they were going with.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I think maybe what they were trying to do was when you weren't sure if Ricardo had or hadn't committed those crimes, I think they were trying to make him feel creepy, so you weren't sure.
Okay.
So the audience had some doubt. So he came off as creepy because when he first meets Olivia, he hugs her or shakes her hand or something. He gets close enough to her that he smells her. And so you're like, oh, okay, weird.
No.
Yeah. So there's some like weird thing there where you're like, does he like her or is he just kind of like creepy? Yeah. And then she also has some weird energy with him where it's like, is she trying to?
Oh.
Yeah, like
it
kind of seemed. Yeah, it kind of seemed like she was flirting with him in a way. So I was like, okay, so she's dating the son, but she's definitely also flirting with the dad. It was weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, so then she goes on this trip with them, and that's when he gets kidnapped. So he doesn't know like a whole. Again, they've been dating not that long. She still lives with him somehow and goes on trips to find murderers with him. And then, but he tells her like, I don't know anything about you. And part of me is like, well, you haven't even asked. Like, you spent all your time talking about you. So why would you know anything about her?
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you want to know? She's like, I have a bad relationship with my dad, but he's the only person I have, so he's annoying and I try not to answer his phone calls, but he's still my dad, so he's the only family I have, and that's pretty much it. Like, that's my life. Apparently she doesn't have any friends or social life or anything, which is always a red flag. By the way. So I feel like that was kind of on him for like just being like, all right, cool, thanks for the info. Yeah. Let's keep being strangers and fucking, I guess.
Wow.
So it's like, oh, they're dating, but like he doesn't know anything about her.
No.
They go on this trip, and all three of them are there. Poncho comes in, and she gives him a glass of water, and then he knocks out, and then he gets kidnapped. And in the meantime, she gets drunk and then makes out with Ricardo.
Oh!
And Ricardo's like, whoa, no, bad. Yeah. Let's not do this. And she's like, okay. And then that's when Poncho is like missing. And so Ricardo moves quickly on from like, oh, this is a weird situation to like, oh, fuck, my son is missing. So they're trying to track him down, and then Olivia gets a text message, and she's like, I think this is a location of where he is. And they're like, okay, well, let's go find him, and then we'll ask why you got that text message. So they go, and Poncho is inside a barrel at this location, but he's alive.
Okay.
He's still not dead, but he's in the barrel. They go, they get him. This is clearly from the butcher of Reynosa. And so he is safe, but he's like hazy on what happened. And so Ricardo is, not sure if he should say anything about what happened with Olivia, but also they're like, Olivia, but like, how did you know where he was? And she's like, I don't know. I got a text message. I don't know where the number's from. I don't know where it came from, but somebody messaged me with the location. Yeah. So everyone's like a little suspicious.
It's a trap.
Right? So, but we're not really sure like what Olivia's role is in all this. So then Isabel, oh wait, not Isabel. Oh, sorry. Isabel, going back to the flashback, because I forgot to include this part, Isabel was Ricardo's sister who got murdered by her husband, Hugo. Yeah. So part of the reason she also got murdered, and the reason she knew that the boys were in trouble was because she found the barrels of, like, somebody told her, like, go check out what your husband is doing in this location. So she found the barrels where he was, like, putting the bodies of the women. So she figured out that he was a carnicero. Oh. That's why we know that Hugo is the carnicero. Okay. And that's why he figured it out and had to kill her.
Wow.
Too. So then...
that's an important flashback.
Yeah. So... oh, yeah. We'll go back to all the side stories because I have like notes on them too, and I don't want to skip them, but I'm like, but this is the important part.
Yeah.
So then, basically, okay. So then Poncho, they're doing this like celebration at the fire station. They're having like the anniversary or something of the fire station
after they found him in the barrel.
After they found him in the barrel. Okay. They're doing a celebration. And, okay, so let's go back. This has been so morbid. Let's go back to sexy times. So the reason that they were all, like, sexy and full of water and sudsy in the opening scene was because now you find out, now that Ricardo is, like, pretending to be the fire chief. Yeah. He's going through the books and he's like, well, fuck, this station has no money. So they're in big trouble. And he finds out that the second in command, Angel, has also been like stealing a bunch of money. And he's like, yo, where's the money? Yeah. And so Angel has like a sick dad that he's been trying to take care of. But Angel's also kind of a dick. Like whenever they would go to fires, he wouldn't let Olivia, who's a firefighter, go in. Like he just wouldn't let her go in. He mostly would make her stay at the station, and she's like, I'm a firefighter. And then when she would go to site, to the fires, he wouldn't let her go inside. He's like, you stay out here, and everyone else would go inside. So he's definitely like a sexist prick. Yeah. And he's angry because he doesn't have the job. He's bitter at his sister because she has a happy sex life, I guess. He's just, like, mad all around. Yeah. And he's taking care of his sick dad, and he's just angry at the world. Yeah. And he's been stealing money. And he hates Ricardo because he showed up to take his job, essentially. Okay. So then... But Ricardo finds out that he's been stealing this money, and he doesn't, like, turn him in or anything. He's, like... He talks to him. He asks him. And he's like, I was going to put it back. I just don't have it. Like, look, my dad is dying. And he needs, like, a lot of treatment. Yeah. And so Ricardo's like, okay, fine. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And so that is the beginning of, like, Angel's kind of, like, emotional turn. Oh. Because it's, like, the first time someone's been, like, kind to him. And he didn't expect it, especially after the way he treated him. So he starts being, like, a little bit, like... more softer, I guess. He starts being less angry. Yeah. Because now he has to be grateful. And so, they basically, they're all brainstorming on how to raise money. And Olivia comes up with, like, why don't we do a calendar? Like, they do it in the United States and in Europe. All these firefighters have sexy calendars. And that's how they make money. And everyone's like, nah. She's like, come on, everyone will do it. Like, let's just do it. And then some of the firefighters are like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, yeah I look good. So they agree to do it.
Okay.
So the first scene we see is the photo shoot for the calendar.
Gotcha. That's so funny.
They're all like, they're there. They're all taking like sexy pictures. And I love it too because all the photographers are women. So like the calendar does great. They sell these calendars like hot cakes. Like they're known as like the sexiest firefighters around town.
Yeah.
They get like popular on Instagram. And so then they basically are now being pursued by like strip clubs to do shows.
Oh wow.
And they're like, well, we need the money. So some of the firefighters start doing these shows.
Oh my gosh.
To get money for the station.
Yeah.
And then so they're doing this like they're gonna do this big like celebration for the anniversary of the fire station, and they do like a little show too, and then they get off the stage or whatever. And Poncho starts to feel sick again, and then he passes out again, and then he gets kidnapped again. And
my
he gets kidnapped a third time.
No!
So then he realizes that time he was kidnapped the first time in McAllen by the weird guy who's like, I knew that guy. He was killing animals and all that.
Yeah.
That was the same guy who kidnaps him the third time.
Okay.
And then he's like, oh, you're Hugo. And then he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he like leaves. And then Olivia, in the meantime, is getting text messages. And Olivia goes to Ricardo and she's like, I think Poncho's in trouble. Let's go find him. And so they go find him again. And they're like, thank you for helping us again. Why do you have this information?
Yeah.
And no one else?
Yeah.
And so when the police is gonna show up to where Poncho is kidnapped, and he's like sitting in a chair tied to it, you know, and and this guy, this weird dude, is like punching him or whatever, and he tells him like, are you Hugo? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he hears the police show up, and then he says like, she betrayed me, and then he leaves. And then he runs away. And so then Olivia and the police show up and they save Poncho. And Poncho's like, I don't know what happened. They're like, did you drink too much at the place? And he's like, no, like I didn't drink anything at the party. I had a glass of water that Olivia gave me. And then he's like, also I had a glass of water that Olivia gave me the last time. And so he's like, maybe I should talk to Olivia about what's going on.
She's so scandalous.
She is sus as fuck. So then he's like, he tells his dad, like, okay, so that was definitely Hugo, right? Like, and he's like, no, Hugo's dead. And he's like, we got to figure this out. So somehow they get permission to exhume the body of Hugo. And sure enough, Hugo's not in there. And so they're like, okay, so Hugo's alive. And he's like, he's around for sure.
Yeah.
And then now Ricardo's putting it together like, fuck, like I should have listened to my wife because he's probably who killed her. And he's still like, probably. So then Olivia, she is having this like inner turmoil because she's definitely falling in love with Poncho. And now we see her having these conversations with her dad. Her dad is the same as Hugo. So she's Hugo's daughter. And so she's like, she goes to see him at this cabin where he's staying. And so now you're like, oh shit, it's the same dude.
Yeah.
And so he's like, what? He's like, are you going soft? Are you not going to follow the plan? So I guess the plan was for her to seduce both Poncho and Ricardo so that she could then lure them so that Hugo could kill them both. Oh. That's why she was being super weird with Ricardo. But she actually is falling in love with Poncho.
Bull shark.
Yeah, I know. I know. But, so now she's conflicted because she's like, I have this loyalty to my dad. And this whole time, her dad's been telling her, like, this family has ruined our lives. He's fed her a bunch of stories that they are responsible for him being unhappy and that all this stuff. And she believed it and that he's trying to get revenge because if he doesn't, they're going to take him out.
Yeah.
And so that's why she's trying to help him. But slowly she's like learning, like, are you the bad guy? Because it sounds like you killed people.
Uh-huh.
And she's been following Poncho along in all his investigations.
Yeah.
So she's putting two and two together. And she asks him, like, Hugo, like, are you a murderer? Like, did you kill those people?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, oh, shut your face. Like, and he just locks her in her room like she's a teenager.
Oh my gosh.
And then, and she's like conflicted because she was gonna, she did betray her dad in that moment because she's in love with Poncho. But then she walks in on Poncho making out with Leonora. Because she kind of had a thing for him, too. Which I'm like, that's weird. Like, you just dated the brother. So now she kind of, like, went for it and kissed him. And then Olivia walks in when she's kissing Poncho. So now she's that the only man she could trust in the world has betrayed her. So she goes back to Dad, and she's like, what do we need to do?
Yeah, the revenge is set in.
It's still on.
Yeah.
So then, like...
Wow.
So then, so Leonora's dad Olivia's dad, she did not put two and two together because when Hugo faked his death, he took on a new name. Mm-hmm. So his new name is Noé Serrano di Carey.
Chili Man.
Chili Man?
Yeah, because of serrano peppers.
Oh! Because of serrano peppers. Okay, yeah, Chili Man. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The Chili Butcher Man.
The Chili Butcher Man. Okay. They should hire you to do all the dubbing for all the shows. Totally. I would love to see the Amber version of this show.
Thank you.
So he was turning them to wine? He basically, Leonora's been studying this case for a long time.
Yeah.
And finally she, like, does this little, like, she lays out the letters of, like, Noé Serrano di Carey, which is di Carey with two C's. She rearranges them and figures out that it's an anagram for El Carnicero de Reynosa.
What?
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, because she's like, what the hell is a di Carey? She's like, that's a weird last name. That's nobody's last name, is that? That's a weird spelling. It's a weird name. So that's how she's like, tries to figure it out. She gets it. She's like, oh shit, it's him. So then she starts following this Noé guy, Olivia's dad. And she is an idiot because this is a very highly skilled criminal who's killed many people and framed others. And she's following him and for some reason doesn't expect she's going to get caught or that he's going to catch on.
Right, because she's super smart.
Yeah. She is going, and she, like, is part of the police. So then she, like, texts her police, like, counterpart, like, her location. She's like, I'm here. Come get me. Like, this is trouble. Like, he's here.
Right.
Come get him. Like, I know who he is. Whatever. She sends that to the police.
Who she doesn't trust.
And rightfully so, because her partner is working for this dude. Oh. So does not send help. They do not help her. She promptly gets shot and also killed.
Oh no, I liked her.
I know, I liked her too. Leonora also gets killed because he's like, excuse me, I'm doing my evil things. Why are you here? And I definitely saw you.
Yeah.
She's like following him to this remote location where there's no other cars.
Right.
So he definitely catches her.
Wow.
And then also kills her. So then, so then look, I'm gonna be honest. There were 3 kidnappings of Poncho, and I know some of the details, but I also remember that, like, I may be mixing up small details. Okay, I'm trying to clarify.
I believe you.
I'm trying to remember exactly when this happened. So one of the times, Leonora got the text message of where he was. Mm-hmm. And then the other time, she also got the text message because he was at that place where the police found him. But the other time the time he passed out because he was at the party, that was not a time they kidnapped him. They had kidnapped, because remember I was telling you, like, he was like, oh, I didn't have anything to drink. That was not the time they kidnapped him. It was a different time.
Gotcha.
That time, I forgot, the reason that was important was the day that he was drugged was not because he was kidnapped that day, but because when he woke up that morning, he woke up next to Leonora's bloody dead body.
Oh.
And so, of course, they're like, well, you killed her, obviously. And she was in his bed. And he's like, what did you do? And he's like, I don't remember. Like, I passed out. And they're like, well, what did you have to drink? And he was like, nothing, water that Olivia gave me. So, essentially, he's being framed for Leonora's death. And so, he basically is like, Olivia, somehow Olivia tells she goes back and forth between her loyalty to her dad and then to Poncho. So at one point she decides like to be on Poncho's side, and she goes to the authorities and she blames herself for Leonora's death. She said she did it and that she drugged him and put the body there and all that. Poncho knows that's not possible. He doesn't know if she framed him, but he doesn't believe she actually killed her. But Olivia turns herself in. But then mysteriously she gets released. Like a judge releases her. They're like, no, it wasn't her. So I think what happens is that Hugo still has connections to people in the police. And so somehow he gets the charges dismissed for Olivia.
For his daughter.
For his daughter.
Yeah. What a good daddy.
Yeah. Even though he like is making her do all these terrible things. So then Ricardo thinks Olivia is being like really sus.
Yeah.
So he follows her and he sees her get into a car and he sees Hugo and he knows Hugo. Yeah. He's like, no, this is definitely Hugo.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one that actually knew him at the time.
Right.
So he sees him and he takes a picture of her and Hugo together in a car. And then he confronts her. And so then
he doesn't tell Poncho?
He doesn't tell him right away, but he does eventually. He shows the picture to Olivia.
Oh, boy.
And Olivia starts piecing a lot of things together. Poncho and Ricardo start piecing things together. That Olivia's dad is Hugo. He's also the carnicero de Reynosa. So there's a lot of, like, sharing of information that's happening. And at the same time, like, a lot of, like, going back and forth between, like, are they friends? Are they enemies? Between everyone. Olivia, Poncho, Ricardo, everybody. Olivia also, we see another flashback, and then we find out that the day that, it was like when Hugo had set fire to the house to kill the babies.
Yeah.
The day that fire happened, they were investigating it because they knew it was arson, right?
Right.
So Hugo was a police officer. And so he was set to investigate the fire he himself caused.
Wow.
So he finds this girl who's a neighbor of a Flor, whose house was on fire. And she finds him and he's investigating the thing. And she tells him like, hey. She's like, I saw there was a man in there and I saw the car and like somebody set the fire. She's like, I want to talk to the police. And he's like, well, tell me, I'm police. And she's like telling him like, yeah, like I can give like a full description, like, but I guess she didn't see him that well because it was him.
Yeah.
But she was like, there was a guy there and like I've seen him there before. And like, so she was this like American girl who was, she was like a tourist, but she was staying in that house next door. And so the next day, because this girl had information, Hugo comes in to her house, kills her because she has information.
Wow.
And then, so we knew that the reason the carnicero de Reynosa had been arrested in the U.S. was for the murder of an American girl.
Oh.
That's why he got caught. Because in Mexico, no one was even paying attention. But he murdered an American citizen. That's why he went to jail. And he did his time in the U.S. So this is the American girl he killed. And then he goes into the house and he realizes that this girl has a baby. So then he takes the baby.
And that's Olivia.
And names it Olivia. Oh. So Olivia's mom was actually also killed by him.
Wow.
And she doesn't know that.
Wow.
So then he has a friend of his who's also a cop, and he pays him, and he's like, I need you to, like, falsify these records. That's how he gets the baby. That's how he gets the records for the baby, that he's the dad. That guy is the one that knows he changed his name, he survived, and that he gave him all the paperwork he needed to live a different life. So then, so now we know that Olivia is not even really his real daughter, but he raised her as his daughter, and then, Olivia is now... So she does eventually figure it out that she's not his daughter.
Really?
Yeah, like somehow she puts it together that her dad is actually the bad guy. That he's doing all these things. And then she does ask him, like, am I even, like, your daughter? And so then she's just, like, pissed as she leaves, and he knows she knows too much. So he's like, Hugo's, like, chasing her. She's running away, but she's also being, like, super reckless, and she's like, basically, also the police is on his side, so they're searching for her.
Yeah.
So eventually she gets she's in a bar, and she gets in a bar fight, which wasn't her fault. Some dude was, like, trying to feel her up, and she punched the dude. But she does get arrested and put in jail. And then Hugo shows up and then kidnaps her from jail. And then, but Poncho does eventually rescue her. My annoyance with this is that we never actually see Poncho and Olivia have a conversation about, like, what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
Like, he never asks her, like, so he's your dad. What?
Yeah.
Or, like, she never asks him, like, so what is the story with your family? So we basically just see that, like, they're in love. So he rescues her, and then they're like, oh, we're all good. 'Cause we love each other. We don't need explanations, which is very annoying to me.
After the 4th day of knowing each other?
Yeah, I'm, like, at this point, like, the whole thing has not been still only been, like, a few weeks. But, like, I guess, so basically Olivia and Poncho do end up together. And then, like, Ricardo is like, sorry I was being creepy. And, like, the explanation we get, I was like, I guess. But, like, the reason he was being a creep is because he was like, I've been in jail for 20 years, and you're the first woman I saw.
Oh, my God.
And smelled, I guess.
Oh.
And so he's like, it's not you. Like, it's just, I don't know. That was his excuse, I guess.
Weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
So we're led to believe, like, okay, so Ricardo doesn't have, like, a weird thing with Olivia.
Yeah.
Olivia doesn't actually have a weird thing with Ricardo. She was just doing it as, like, revenge.
Right. And
then, basically, like, what we know by the end of this is that Hugo, now Noé, he, at the very end, there's another fire, because his whole thing is like, oh, you guys are a family of firefighters, so he starts fires.
Of course.
So there's this big scene in the end where, like, I'm trying to remember, like, there's a fire, and Olivia and Poncho are inside the house, and Hugo's inside the house, and Ricardo comes in to try to save his son, and then they get into this fight, and then everyone's just fighting, basically. It's just a big fight inside of a house that's, like, burning. And to be honest, like, I kind of expected it to be more, it was a little anticlimactic, because I was expecting, like, a big out brawl.
Yeah.
But it's like, also there's guns involved, and then you're like, well, if you have a gun, just shoot it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're trying to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But, like, someone has a gun, and I'm trying to remember, like, somebody shoots somebody, but then I think Olivia at one point has the gun, and she aims it, like, at Hugo.
Yeah.
But she can't shoot him because he's her dad, so she doesn't. But then he gets the gun, and then eventually everyone gets out, and Hugo is... Well, they were fighting inside the house, and then there's, like, a big, like, wooden chandelier in this house, and it falls on Hugo.
Okay.
So then they're like, cool, let's get out. And I'm like, no, shoot him. Like, you don't know he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
in TV, they always do that thing where they just leave and then they weren't dead. So then they leave, and I'm like, that's stupid. But they do. And guess what? Everyone thinks he's dead, but Hugo's not dead.
Of course.
And so I don't know if there's gonna be another part to this novela. So yeah, so, because what happens is that Hugo chloroforms Poncho and Olivia. That's why they're in the house. And then Hugo is going to kill Olivia when the chandelier falls on him, and he burns inside the house. And everyone is like happy and safe, but we don't know if Hugo actually dies inside the house because he is left to burn, but I'm not sure he does.
Right.
So I don't know. It was inconclusive for me.
Yeah.
And then everyone is like safe and happy, and then there's a firefighter striptease, and then and then they hire more women firefighters. That's the end.
Wow. So Ricardo survives the fire with Poncho and Olivia.
Yes. And he finally has his son. His son has his dad and his girl.
Get married?
I don't think they show that, but you're led to understand that they're a happy couple now that everyone knows the truth.
And Ricardo's still fire chief?
So what happens with that is that, so here's all the different side stories. So eventually, Angel, when he hates Ricardo, he figures out, he's not on any kind of a record. So then he goes to, the main people, and he's like, yo, there's, this guy just pretending to be the fire chief. Are you going to do anything about it? So then they're like, oh, okay, so it's under review. But eventually, because he had raised so much money for the fire station, and he'd, established, really progressive ideas in the fire station that had helped everybody, they're like, he's doing a really good job, so we're just going to give it to him. So then they just give him the job. Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Ricardo becomes the fire chief.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for him.
There's the Angel storyline. So there's another really weird side story, and the main storyline is the most intense, right? It's crazy. It's got all the intensity. But there's a couple really interesting storylines that were more interesting than the main story. And one of them that I wanted to talk about, there's this girl she's one of the girls who rents an apartment from a room from Gloria.
Okay.
The lady who's renting out rooms from Itati Cantoral's character.
Yes, Doña.
Yeah. And so this girl, Penelope, she...
What's her name?
Penelope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I said envelope. I was like, what?
Envelope. And yeah, they kind of alternate her, because they give her, a shorter name, too, a nickname. They call her Lupita sometimes.
Oh.
Penelope Lupita, I guess. And so, basically, Lupita is a student. She's studying what I'm assuming is astronomy or just something nerdy and science-based, because they essentially set her up as an antisocial nerd.
Okay.
But she's really nice.
Science is cool.
It is cool. She has a particular quality that makes me question whether or not she is a good or bad character.
Oh, interesting.
Because, and I kind of like this, because it makes a more complex character. So Penelope is really sweet and shy. She also doesn't, part of her shyness and her introvertedness is that she just doesn't like to get close to people. She's very heterosexual. We know this.
Yeah.
Because the weird thing she does is that she has this what is it called? To look at the stars. What is it called?
Telescope.
A telescope. Thank you. So she has a telescope, which is directly pointed at the fire station.
Oh.
So she's a peeper.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah. A little bit of a conflicting, I guess, character, because it's well, I like her, but also I don't like her because she is legit aiming her telescope into the quarters of the firefighters. So she keeps watching them. And she'll just sit there on the roof of the building because she's next door to the fire station.
That's not obvious at all.
And right, it's directed down, aimed downward. And she peeks at them, and she I don't think she has access to the bathrooms per se, but she definitely has access to the room the quarters where they're shirtless and hanging out. And definitely their rooms, their actual rooms.
Okay.
And we know this because, and this is what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a scene where she's obsessed with this one firefighter, and she's watching him through her telescope, and she observes that he is cutting himself. So she is conflicted.
Yeah.
Because she's definitely not supposed to be watching this happen.
Right.
But also now she has seen this happen.
Yeah.
She is a person who's also typically a very depressed person. So she feels like she is already kind of obsessed with this guy because of how he looked. Now she feels she can connect with him on an emotional level. So she reaches out and she's like, she knows them. Like they know her because she lives next door.
Right. Okay.
And she basically is like, hey, like, just so you know, like, it's really hard and sometimes you should see a therapist because life is really, really hard. Like, I get it. And she kind of lets him know that she gets how hard and depressing life is without telling him why.
Yeah.
And that's a weird statement from someone you've never really had a deep conversation with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she talks to the therapist and she tells the therapist, hey, this guy's cutting himself. So here's my question, which I don't know what I think. Like, what is the ethical responsibility of a creeper? Because, like, definitely you shouldn't be doing that. You should not be invading people's private space.
Right.
But then when you do and you see something,
you should say something.
Right?
Yeah.
But, like, how?
She should have just gone up to him and be like, hey, I'm your neighbor. I watch you guys all the time. I'm sorry, we can talk about that later, but I see you doing things to yourself that really is a cry for help. I understand. Let's go to therapy together. First date.
See, that is it first. That's a great approach. Yes. But that also means she's exposing herself to, like, he's never going to want to talk to me because also he now knows I spy on them.
Well, then it goes to her moral dilemma of, like, do I help the person sacrificing my creepiness for the betterment of themselves, or that person, I mean? That's a question for her. I would hope the creepy science girl would put that above her own creepiness.
So does that give them a redeemable quality? Like, if a person who is doing something like being creepy and like a peeper, if they put their own peeping on blast, knowing this will have consequences for them, to help somebody,
yes,
does that redeem them?
I'd say it's a neutral. They do something good and they do something bad.
Okay.
You're in the middle.
Okay.
Like a neutron.
Like a neutron, yes. Like, yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom. Get my science reference? What would you think?
Well, my dilemma is also, okay, well, I think that what the answer you gave is perfect. I think that...
Oh, thanks.
I think that it would, if you're a person who's already doing something that's a little bit illegal and creepy and wrong, my question is, like, where do you draw the line? Like, if you're already doing something wrong, are you then going to keep doing something wrong by not saying something to protect yourself? And I feel that you would, if you're already doing something weird, you might protect yourself and not help the person.
Right.
But I guess it's kind of nice to be hopeful that a person could, when seeing another person in emotional stress, especially someone you've been, like, watching.
You feel like you know them.
Yeah.
You're practically dating.
That maybe you could use your own delusion to help be a better person by then putting them first.
Yeah.
Even if it means this person's going to know I'm a creep and they're probably never going to want to talk to me again. I think that's the right thing to do. I just don't know that that's what would happen.
Probably not. You're probably right. They would protect themselves.
Yeah. And the other option, which is what I think probably would happen and is the worst of the answers, is that
She puts him in a barrel.
Well, that is the worst. You're right. That is the absolute worst. The second worst would be to use that information you have to then try to make a connection with them, because you got like, which is kind of what she did, is she used that very private information that she got by peeping to be like, hey, I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. And I feel like that's too manipulative.
Yes, I don't like that.
They didn't volunteer that information.
Right.
So if it was gotten through illegal means and wrong means, I don't feel like you should use it to create... Because, like, what kind of relationship could you begin when it's based on I was being weird and a creeper?
Yeah, not a good base, not a good foundation.
No. Well, luckily, these two do not end up together.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm glad.
So, she actually, the guy that she was watching, he was actually the boyfriend of the other girl who also rents one of the rooms.
So did she tell the girlfriend?
By this point, I think they were already splitting up.
Oh.
So I don't think she told her.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. They were already split up, and that's why I think she saw her opportunity. Oh. And that's part of the reason why he was down, too.
Okay.
But there was, like, a lot going on with this character, with all of these characters.
Yeah.
He had this trauma because when he was a kid, he was supposed to be watching his younger brother, and then the younger brother drowned in a pool, and so his parents constantly told him, like, it should have been you!
Oh my gosh!
And so he's, like, kind of being a firefighter to, like, save lives because he feels like he needs to make up for that loss of the life.
Yeah.
And so he has, like, a kind of a sweet story where he saves a baby from a burning fire, and then, like, the mom... Oh, it's a car. It's, like, a car accident, and then he saves the mom and the baby. And I think that's what it was. And then... So then the mom he saves is, like, a single mom. And she's like, well, since you saved my baby's life, I'm going to name him after you. And then he kind of, like... Basically, he starts dating the mom.
Of course.
And they have, like, a cute little relationship. So... in a way, he heals from his trauma.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, by saving this baby.
Okay.
And so that is a little nice story for him. Lupita, she ends up kind of spying on Angel, the very sad, angry man. And I guess she realizes, like, oh, like, kindred spirits. And they start dating, and she's really nice and sweet to him, and she stops peeping on anybody else. And no one's ever been nice to him. So that's why when Ricardo, like, doesn't tell on him about the money, he's, like, very grateful.
How old is he?
He's probably late 30s, and he's probably a good 10 years older than her.
Okay.
There is
I'm
an age,
thinking like 50 versus 20.
No, there is an age difference, but
Okay.
it's not as big.
Okay.
It is where it's like, okay, I can see it, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was, like, how do you feel about, like, dating the significant other, or dating the family member of, like, a significant other? Because, like, Leonora, her boyfriend died, and then she immediately was like, oh, I'm attracted to his brother.
Oh, no. No.
Because that's, like,
It's too close.
It's too close, right?
Weird.
And they're
Weird.
twins, too.
Yeah, fraternal twins.
That's true.
So they're not identical.
True. But if they were, there's an argument to be made. If you like one, you'll like the other.
True. No, thank you. It's too weird.
It is too weird. We see this happen also in the novela El Clon, where, like, one twin dies, and then the girlfriend of that guy starts dating the other twin. So I feel like this is a novela thing. I've never actually seen it happen in real life. Have you ever dated a twin?
No, but it reminds me. Have you ever dated a twin?
No.
You know those conjoined twins?
Yes.
They got married, right?
Yes.
To a regular, like,
Non-conjoined.
non-conjoined man.
Yes. They both have partners, right?
They do?
I think there is, well, maybe we're talking about different twins, but there are twins where, like, they both have a husband, like a separate husband.
I don't know about that. Like, these are the teachers.
Oh, I don't know this one. And so wait,
They
so
recently got married like a year ago, maybe, or less
this is
than
a
a year.
recent story.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know this story. So wait, so one of them got married. So are only because there's two different people. So only one of them signed the marriage document, right?
I have no idea.
So-
I have so many questions.
I know.
Like, it's just like I like the wedding pictures. Obviously, they're conjoined, so
Right.
they're in a wedding dress, and then there's the groom, but he only married one of the
them.
twins.
Yeah.
Twins.
Yeah.
So then, what is the other one doing? And it's just like, what happens with other things that couples do?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if
Like
they
eating
are
cereal together.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking, Amber. How do you eat cereal together when there's three of you at the table?
And there's only 2 chairs.
Yep. And
don't
also,
know.
the other person might want to eat a different kind of cereal.
Right.
How do they get to try out cereals when you've already got yours?
Weird.
Yeah, because also, what is it called? Like, marrying more than one person is illegal.
Right?
Oh, I forgot what it's called.
Polygamy.
Polygamy. Polygamy is illegal. So you can't...
Unless you're in that religious faith.
Right. But also, if you're religious, it's still illegal. Legally, it's still illegal.
Right.
So,
yes.
if legally you're only marrying one person, and then that person then also wants to date somebody else, so you're not married to both. So, yeah,
Right.
they have to figure it out. Man, that's props to them, man, to make
Yeah.
it work out.
I just don't get it.
I know. And then, like, dating is so hard in general.
It is.
And then you're like, people figure it out.
If you were single today,
Yes.
would you do all those dating apps and things? I don't think I could.
Oh, well, I did.
Oh, you
yeah,
did?
Yeah, I did all of them.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I found dating apps fine.
Yeah.
I did a lot of dating on dating apps.
Nice.
Yeah.
Were you ever catfished?
No.
Like by twins?
No, but okay, I do have a story. So I was never catfished by twins. This happened in real life. This isn't a dating app story.
Yeah.
So I used to have these neighbors. Like, they were like directly my next door neighbors. And they were two brothers. And they looked so much alike.
Yeah.
They were not twins. They were brothers. But they were very close in age. And I started seeing one of them. So I think. If you ask me to swear on, like, I could not truly honestly say that I only dated one of them. To my knowledge, only dated one of them. But they looked so much alike.
For how long?
It was like probably like a month or so.
Okay.
It was short. It was short.
Yeah. Not enough time to decipher between the two.
No, and like I never like saw them together.
Oh, weird.
So it was like I knew if I said hello to one of them, if one of them was like, "Oh, hey," and the other one was like, "Oh, hey," like I knew that was the one I had like been with. But that was the only way I knew.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's my closest twin story.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't have a story like that.
Yeah, no, but I did do abs. I guess I never knowingly like went out with like a twin or anything.
I always wanted to be a twin.
You did?
That's as close as I get to twinning.
No.
Because I always thought, oh, you have another person just like you. How awesome would that be?
You're such a positive person.
Like, I just thought, wow, like all my cousins have siblings and I was the only child. Well, I have brothers, but it doesn't matter.
But not a twin.
Right. And so, like, I'm like, they're growing up with you at the same time. Like, you have your bosom buddy to get, like, you're just together all the time. I don't think my mother would want that, but I always wanted to be a twin. And the doctors thought my mom was having twins because she was so big with me, but that wasn't the case.
Oh.
Yeah.
My mom wanted twins so bad because we do have, like, I have cousins that are twins. My cousin has twins.
Yeah. We don't have twins in our family. But I remember my grandmother, my Nana, she was like my mommy too. And I remember one time she'd called me. She's just like, Mija, I want you to have a baby already. You've been married so long. Just chop chop. And I said, no, I don't want any children. And then she's like, just have 2 and knock it out. Because I had told her, I was like, if I have one, I gotta have another one because then they're gonna be lonely. And she's like, well, just have twins. And I said, okay. And then on her deathbed, I told her in her ear, I'm like, if you don't die, I'll make you two babies.
Oh, that's really sweet, Amber.
Well, I was trying to, pull all the tricks out of the bag, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Either way, though, yeah, she really wanted babies.
The intention was sweet. My mom even had names for them. She wanted
Really?
Yvonne Yvette. She wanted a boy and a girl, and she wanted to name them Yvonne Yvonne. Yvonne Ivan. Okay. So she had plans.
Yeah. I mean, if I was going to have children, like, if whatever plan that defeated my plans, like, I would rather just knock them out and have two and be done.
There, boom.
But I don't want them. I'm just saying if I were to have them.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting because most actors I meet are like, I don't want anyone to be like me. There's no one on this earth, no one on this planet. I am unique. Even though they have siblings. You're like, I want someone to do stuff with.
Yeah, I just thought it would be so fun. And like one person's left-handed, the other person's right-handed. Like whenever I meet twins or like one half of the set, I ask them all these questions. I'm like, can you feel each other's pain? Do you guys, finish each other's sentences? Like, do you get that? And they're like, oh yeah, we feel like that all the time. And I was like, oh, it's just a whole thing. Like it's Pandora's box or an enigma. It's just like,
yeah.
Science can't explain everything.
Okay, I'm gonna have to introduce you to my cousin's twins. When they were born, we went to visit them. They live in Georgia, and they were like babies, and they didn't speak language yet. And my sister, we were visiting my cousin, so we were staying at my cousin's house, and my sister was staying in the room where the babies were, and she's like, "Oh my God, they were talking to each other all night." She's like, I don't know what they were saying, but they were clearly understanding. Like, they were communicating.
They know.
Yeah, they were saying stuff, and they were like, ha, ha, ha.
Well, I would love to meet them. I've got a million questions for them.
They are, and now I think they're like 17 or so right now, so they're like people.
Yeah, they're humans with language.
Yeah.
Maybe multiple languages by now.
Yes, true.
Yeah. Wow.
I'll have to introduce you.
I love that.
Thank you so much for being here. Do you have any questions about the thing? About the story?
So we don't know if there's a season 2.
We don't know if there's a season 2.
And what year did this show come out?
This one just came out.
Last year?
I think last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very recent.
Wow. So I'm assuming they'll have news soon about a season 2 if there is one.
Yeah, if there is one, I don't know. It's hard to tell because I feel like they wrapped everything up except for the fact we're not sure if Hugo's dead or not.
I don't think he's dead, and I think he's going to come back for Ricardo and the whole fam.
Yeah. I will say I was just a little dissatisfied with the ending because it felt like they had to wrap it up in like the last episode. And they were like, all right, quick, just everything, put it together.
Yeah.
And there were just like a couple of, like I said, the side stories that were interesting. Doña Gloria was like, just had like a crush on Ricardo the whole time. And she was just trying to figure out how to be in love as an adult, like an older person who hadn't had. And then at one point she figures out that the husband that she idolized who had passed away.
Yeah.
This guy shows up at the door and he's like, oh, he's my dad. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, excuse me, because this guy is the same age as her son.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that her husband that she loved had been having this affair for a long enough time that he had raised this other son.
Oh my gosh.
And so like that was like a huge blow to her. But also like the son is like, well, he's my brother. Like, I always wanted a brother.
Yeah.
He was like, let him in. Oh, because he came over because his mom had just passed away. Because when the dad passed away, he was raised by his mom. And his mom passed away. Mm-hmm. So he went to, like, the family of his dad. Mm-hmm. And he was basically like, I lost my mom. Like, I don't have anybody. I don't have family. I don't have a way to live. Mm-hmm. Like, can I work here? Can I help you? And then Gloria was like, he's, the love child of her husband and some other woman. Mm-hmm. So at first she was just like really, really hurt. But I thought it was a really beautiful story because this character was so kind and sweet that she eventually got over. She was like, my pain and my anger is with him, with the husband. She's like, this poor son, this guy, you know, it's not his fault. He's a nice enough person. And also Gloria's son, he's gay and has, you know, trouble being accepted and all this stuff. And this new brother that shows up, he's like very respectful and loves his brother, even though like he's gay, like he didn't make a thing about that. And to her, it meant a lot. It's like, oh, like her son has a brother who loves him. And so she accepts him in and he becomes part of their family.
Yeah.
So that's like a really sweet side story
That's
too.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are other like really cool stories. Like I know I told the whole story here, but there are other side stories in this that are really sweet too.
Okay.
There's like the girl who had been dating the firefighter who was cutting himself. Well, she's an actress who finds out that she has cancer.
Oh.
And so like it just turns her life upside down because she has to go through like chemotherapy and she doesn't know what she's going to look like. Her appearance is so important to her. She also has a mom who's like obsessed with her appearance. And so like her mom is very selfish and she's like, you need to come with me, I'll take care of you. And she's like, but you've never taken care of me. And in this place she feels she's loved by Gloria and like the other people around there. So her family, her like adopted family in a way, is here and her mom wants to take her away. So, and she's dealing with chemotherapy and cancer, so she's like doesn't have a lot of strength to deal with her mom. So that's like a whole other side story.
But she's not dead at the end of the series.
No, she is not.
She's still fighting.
She survives.
Okay.
So she has a successful operation.
Oh, okay.
But she's still undergoing, I think, treatment ongoing treatment. But yeah, so there's that story. There's also like a really interesting story with you know how I told you that Angel's sister worked as a therapist for the firefighters? Well, her story was that she was in an abusive marriage. And, but also even though she was in an abusive marriage, but also she was unfaithful in her marriage. And so when they got a divorce, it was really ugly and because she was unfaithful, she lost custody of her daughter and she's trying to get custody back. But she's also like a woman who wants to live her life and doesn't want to be like judged for the way she lives it. Yeah. She is a responsible adult and she has her good job and she's a good person but she also just doesn't necessarily want to live according to society rules. And what that means is she has a boyfriend at the station. So one of the firefighters is her boyfriend. And then when they do the sexy photo shoot, there's this photographer there who's a woman, and she kind of flirts with this guy, and they kind of have a conversation, and then they kind of this photographer and the firefighter introduce her to this girl, to Angel's sister. And they basically go into like a throuple. They become a throuple together. And so she's trying to get custody of her daughter. Yeah. But at the same time, it doesn't look good because it's like she's in a 3-way relationship. So it's like but she's also the responsible one. Yeah. And her ex-husband is like, there's an episode, he's abusive, and not to the daughter, but he's just an abusive person. And she's afraid that at one point her daughter's going to be in danger when she gets older, just from like abusiveness or like his way of thinking. And there's one episode where there's an earthquake and it like affects the whole novela, like the trajectory of the novela. Yeah, it's just like, boom, earthquake. Okay, now we deal with this. And during that earthquake, the daughter was alone because the dad was like pissed drunk. And so the mom is like, mad, and she's like, you're not taking care of her, like let me keep her. If you're not going to take care of her, let me do it. And he's like, how are you going to take care of her with like you and your girlfriend and your boyfriend? And she's like, like like we can do it, just let us. But at the same time, in the earthquake, the firefighter boyfriend, he gets injured, so now he's in a wheelchair. And so his confidence is like shot, and he goes through like all of the emotional damage of going through something like that. And that's why in that scene I sent you where they're doing the striptease, he's the guy doing the striptease in the wheelchair. Yeah, so there's that story as well. Wow. Yeah, it has a lot.
Gosh.
Yeah. I really like the stories in it, although I
Yeah.
did feel that the writing was rushed at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And my main complaint was like, I feel like this was a story written by like a guy who really wants to be a feminist, but he doesn't quite understand why we're mad. Because he's like, yeah, women firefighters, but he like gets this model looking woman.
Uh-huh.
And also she like never really does anything like super heroic. Like she's still a damsel in distress most of the time. Yeah, there were just a lot of things where I'm like, well, I feel like a strong woman who was writing this would have written it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just seeing a woman be a fighter isn't quite enough. It's like aesthetic changes.
Yeah.
But it was a good one.
What did you like most about this one?
Probably the naked firefighters.
Can I tell you, so I met this retired firefighter who worked for Los Angeles City Fire Department since like, I think he said 1946, and he retired in 1990. He said, being a firefighter is the most fun a guy can have with his clothes on.
Oh, I love that. Wow.
I was like, okay, sir, kudos. I get it. All right. I don't know if you should have told me that, but cool.
Well, kudos to all firefighters,
Yes.
especially women firefighters who are out there doing it, actually doing it.
Yes.
We thank you. You are all amazing. Thank you for going into the fire to save people.
Thank you for saving us.
Thank you for saving us. I mean, who else actually runs into trouble to save people?
Not me.
No, not me either. Yeah, that's it's hard to find someone who has aside from maybe like soldiers, who has that kind of like courage to see something, because most of us we're like, well, we can fight injustice or do something about it after the fact, but they go in like while it's happening.
Yes.
And that takes a special kind of courage.
It does, for
I don't
sure.
know about.
It's very dangerous.
But you did military work as well, right?
My husband was an Army soldier.
Oh, okay.
And he has a cousin who is a firefighter. He's
Oh.
a captain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe we should interview him one day.
Absolutely.
I mean, I just want to know, like, I guess that's my question is, like, what do you think about, or do you not think? Like, you know, like, when you have to go in to save somebody.
Right. So I saw him, my husband's cousin. We just had a family reunion on his side over in Lake Tahoe mid-July. And so I was just catching up with him. And he's a dad of 4 kids with a wife who's a nurse. Oh, wow. So, like, they're just all commendable people. But he doesn't like talking about himself. Like, he's very humble in that regard. And so, like, there was another, like, cousin's significant other that wants to be a firefighter. So he was asking him questions about advice and all this stuff. And because he was, like, barely 20 or something. And this cousin's, like, our age, roughly. I know I'm a lot older than you.
We are the same age.
Okay. Okay. Right. And so, like, he's just like, you trust your training and you just go in and do the job. Like, you trust your other firefighters to get you through it. Like, whoever goes through that door first, like, yes, there's an exhilaration rush because you're the first one on site is the best feeling, but at the same time, you don't know what you're getting into and how to assess a situation within seconds, and you're driving the trucks to get there, and he's like, I'm a good driver, I know that for sure. And I'm like, all right, good job, man. But it's just, and I remember asking him, like, in previous, like, Christmases, I'm like, how many close calls have you had that your wife doesn't know about? He's like, about 5.
Oh,
and I was like,
yeah.
And it's like, when I used to work as a civilian in the Army, when my husband, when we were in Germany, I was in the headquarters of the wow, I can't talk. Jesus Christ, superstar. The headquarters of the medical unit my husband was attached to. So I was working with a lot of combat medics. And their stories of deployment and stuff like that. Like, one had his hand on a heart that was, like, he had to pump it in a person's chest. Like, and things like that. You're just like, or like you're going into a home and, like, you don't know what to expect on the other side of that door, but it's your wife that's going through there, not you. Like, there were married couples that were, you know, it's just craziness.
Wow.
It's just fascinating and all, again, very admirable positions and respectable heroes and all that.
Absolutely.
I couldn't do that. I'm just a little
Absolutely.
voice actor wanting to be
Yeah.
a cartoon every day. That's all I do. I try to do. That's all we want to do.
That's all we want to do. I just want to watch and talk about novelas. That's all I do.
We just want to make people laugh and smile and
Thank
escape their
God
stress.
there are other people out there.
Like my therapy's going to Disneyland. That's,
yeah.
Or Universal Studios.
Universal, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank God for those people. This episode is for you.
Yeah.
You're awesome. You're amazing.
Sorry, I'm not a contributor to society like those people are, but hey, we're here.
But we're here. We don't know for what, but we'll show up.
Especially if there's a margarita, nachos, or maybe some strawberry pie from Marie Callender's.
Ooh.
They should be a sponsor of your podcast.
They should. We'll reach out. Thank you so much for being here, Amber.
Thank you for having me.
Where can we find you? Do you want people to find you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram at Amber __ Aviles. My last name, A-V is in Victor, I-L-E-S. And on the TikTok as well. I've started that. Which makes me feel very uncomfortable. But I'm trying. I'm more comfortable on Instagram. But I'm learning the TikTok business.
Yeah, I still don't know quite how to use it.
I don't either. I'm not good at it.
Yeah, I try a little bit like for the podcast. I know how to make a
You're
video.
doing great.
Thank you.
You're a very impressive person.
Thank you so much. I don't always feel it, so thank you. I appreciate it.
But you are.
Thank you. Well, likewise.
Thanks, girl.
You can find me. You can find the podcast, Noveleando Podcast, on Instagram. And I'm Gloria the Actress on Instagram as well. Is there anything you're working on or any projects that you would like people to know about, or are they all secret?
Ooh, there's some secret things, but the one that I can mention is that I was part of the English cast for a TV show called Las Azules, or Women in Blue, on Apple TV.
Ooh.
It just came out July 31st.
Ooh, well, I will definitely have to watch it, maybe have an episode on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Mexican telenovela.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll have to have you back.
I play a character named Angelus.
Angelus.
In English dub.
Nice.
But if you're, super fast Telemundo like you in Spanish, you'll probably want to watch the original filming of it.
And then I'll go back and hear it in English so I can hear you.
need to hear it in English. It's probably better in Spanish for Spanish ears. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I have such a great time always when you're here.
Thank you for having me again. You're absolutely the bestest ever at this podcast thingy.
Thank you. Have everyone a super great day, and remember to live novelally. Bye!
Bye!